Welcome to the Surrender Spectrum, in tune with Travis Anthony Johnson. Today I'm just grateful to be a part of the whole that is the universe, or God for lack of a better term. One day I don't know, this was a couple of years back now. I don't know, it's probably like four or 5 years back, but I freestyled a prayer to God, and it was truly the most beautiful thing that ever happened for myself. The prayer went like this: God, I am grateful for your unconditional love for me, and I'm grateful for my unconditional love for you, because when we share unconditional love for each other, that means that I have unconditional love for myself, for I am part of you, and you are all of me. It shows me that I'm not the center of the universe, but I am a part of the source and can manifest all the beauty that our universe has to offer by simply being a part of. Now let's pull some spiritual principles from that prayer alone. We could see uh, like a humility through unity. In a sense, we are not the center of the universe, but we are undeniably part of the source. Our place in this vast cosmic body isn't about control, it's about connection. When we step into humility, we're not shrinking, we're sinking. We belong because we exist. And another principle could be authentic surrender. Some of the most beautiful moments we've ever had with God weren't scripted. They were spontaneous, raw, and unrehearsed. We freestyled prayers and our soul finally spoke. That's when surrender didn't feel like defeat, it felt like coming home. Another principle could be to be receiving grace. There's a moment in recovery where we stop resisting love and finally let it land. We realize we've been loved all along, not because of what we've done, but because of who we are, and that's grace. It's not something we earn, it's something we remember. There's a reciprocal devotion that comes from the prayer. When we open our hearts to love God back, something shifts. It's no longer a one-way street. It becomes a loop, a cycle of love that flows through us and back to source. We're not just recipients of divinity, we're co-creators in its reflection. And we could look at self-love as a divine mirror. When we recognize God's love for us and reflect it back, we unlock something sacred. The realization that we are not broken, that loving ourselves is not selfish, it's spiritual. God's love becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, we finally see ourselves clearly. This shows a divine identity. We're not claiming to be God, but we're not denying that God is fully in us. That's the mystery. We are vessels, not the source of light, but the light still shines through us, fully, completely, at all times now. There's an ego transcendence that pours from this prayer. Our egos told us we had to be everything for everyone, but now we see the truth. We are not everything, but we are enough. Our worth isn't in our hustle, it's in our harmony. The universe sings through us, not around us. And, let's look at abundance through alignment. We no longer chase manifestations like trophies. We align, we harmonize, we receive what is already ours. Not because we're deserving in some transactional sense, but because we're tuned to truth. Abundance flows where love is unblocked. Now let's simply look at the miracles of God and miracles of the universe and the miracles of us being selected to live these lives. Um, it's really, it's really about, you know, rising to the occasion and and to you know follow through with our journey. The miracle of God to me is the ability to overcome struggles and hardships. The path of God's will is the journey of leveling up. I always seek control of not only my own life, but the world around me. It is entirely possible that my own self will has been steering myself around the ability to overcome my struggles. I kept seeking the easy way out, which just like realistically put a band aid over my pain of existence. This is why I kept falling down and reaching lower bottoms after wrongfully perceived higher highs. I grow outside of my comfort zone, but my comfort zone was pure chaos. Pure ups and downs. If I allowed God's will for me to steer my life, I allow God to take me through the traffic of the unavoidables so that I can eventually arrive at my destination instead of, taking wrong turns and hitting dead ends. Patience, vigilance, and willingness are the keys to my growth. And I must be weary of God's signs that guide me to where I need to be, which is alive and thriving. So, miracle defined could be, that a miracle isn't thunder in the sky, it's the quiet strength to stand up one more time. Self will chase shortcuts that only deepen the wound. God's will charts the long road that heals. My old comfort zone was chaos, highs that felt heroic, crashes that dug new bottoms. And today I trade the steering wheel for divine GPS. Patience keeps my hands off the controls. Vigilance reads the road signs of grace. Willingness presses the accelerator of faith. And that equals destination alive, destination thrive. Let's deep dive into patience. The first ray of this divine triad, if you will, impatience being a word that I used to absolutely hate. I loathed it. Because for most of my life, I thought patience meant doing nothing, just waiting. It was a weakness, powerless passivity. But that was my ego talking. Patience isn't a pause, patience is preparation. It's the stillness before the bloom, the quiet strength to let the seed be a seed until it's ready to crack open into purpose. I used to rush every part of my life, everything. Healing, success, love, even my relationship with God once I, started to find it. I treated spiritual growth like it owed me instant results, as if I could hustle healing into happening. But growth doesn't work that way. And I mean, neither does grace. Patience is God's classroom, if you will. It's where I learn to sit with discomfort instead of masking it with distraction. It's where I build the muscle to stay when everything in me simply wants to escape. And the craziest part, patience it's pure power, because when I'm patient, I'm no longer reacting. I'm choosing. I'm waiting for the right moment, not just any moment. Like I'm letting God be the clock. So now when I feel lost or slow or like I should be further by now, I remember the oak tree waits inside the acorn, and the miracle waits inside the mundane. The divine waits for my willingness to trust his pace over my plan. I'm not stuck. I'm being seasoned. like a nice like a nice piece of chicken, you know what I'm saying? Oh man. Patience isn't punishment, it's alignment. If you're hearing this right now and you feel like the blessings are taking too long, maybe they're not late. Maybe they're loading. And maybe you're not falling behind. You're just in God's time zone. Next up, we have, what was it? In this vigilance. Vigilance. Because once patience teaches you how to wait, vigilance teaches you what to watch for. So stay with me. Let's stay grounded. We're walking this path together. Let's ignite the second ray in this divine triad. Where patience was surrender, vigilance is awareness. Think of it like the watchtower of the soul, the sacred attention that guards the gates of our mind, our spirit, our purpose. So we learn that patience teaches us to wait, but now we ask, wait for what? That's where vigilance comes in. To me, vigilance isn't paranoia. It's not hyperfixation or fear-based scanning of the world. It's presence. It's spiritual situational awareness. It's being awake to the subtle signs, the nudges, whispers, and synchronicities that only reveal themselves when I'm tuned in. See, my past was filled with reaction. I was triggered, defensive, constantly zoning out, eyes wide open, but spirit simply still asleep. Now I realize every miracle, every warning, every fork in the road God ever gave me, I missed most of them because I wasn't looking. I just simply wasn't paying attention. I was just, fight or flight, zoomed in, tunnel vision. I thought that was the only way to live. I knew nothing else. I knew there was no other options. Vigilance is love with eyes. It watches my thoughts like a loyal guardian. It scans my motives like a lighthouse scanning the waves. It sees ego when it's sneaking in with a disguise. And most of all, vigilance is the art of listening. And not just to others, but to God's voice in the quiet, to that gut feeling that says wait, to that subtle pain that says something's off, to that pull that says this is the way. Vigilance is what lets me see the exit ramp before the relapse, the hidden lesson in the conflict, the invitation in the challenge. And it's exhausting if I try to do it alone. But when I invite God into my watchtower, when I pray with my eyes open, it becomes intuition sharpened by grace, not a burden, but a gift. So now I ask myself, what am I watching for today? What signs have I been ignoring? What thought needs to be caught before it takes root? Because when I'm vigilant, I catch the lie before it speaks. I catch the blessing before it passes, and I catch the miracle mid-flight. And that brings us to the final gate, willingness. Because what good is waiting and watching if I don't have the cojones to move when God calls? I ain't got the bugats, This is the moment of divine agreement where your free will and God's will meet hands and say, let's do this together. Willingness is not just an action. It's a posture, it's a spiritual yes. I used to think willingness meant being strong enough, capable, ready, but real willingness, it starts way before strength. It starts when I'm on my knees, still shaking, still unsure, but whispering, yeah, I'll try that. Willingness is what flips the script. It's where surrender turns into momentum. It's when we say, even if I'm scared, I'll move anyway. Even if I failed before, I'll show up again. Even if it hurts, I trust there's healing on the other side. And you can have all the knowledge, all the science, all the prayers and preparation, but without willingness, nothing grows. Willingness is the match that lights the fire. It's the bridge between intention and action, between knowing and becoming. It doesn't always look glorious. Sometimes it looks like making a call, showing up to a meeting, saying, I need help. Sometimes it's getting out of bed when the darkness says stay. And trust me, for me, the darkness is always saying stay. That's one of my hardest things to overcome. And I still am not very good at it, is just getting out of bed when the darkness says stay. Sometimes it's picking up your journal instead of your old escape, just writing it out and just feeling and just being, or just allowing yourself to be present. And which reminds me, actually, let me find this. I'm going to read this for y'all. I found this I had a memory on my Instagram, and it showed me a writing that I did, I think, like 5 years ago when I was doing very well in my recovery. And I would like to share that with you because this is what it's all about. So let me find it here. Bam. All right, so this is what I wrote. The day is Saturday, June 20th, 2020. 3 days from my 31st birthday. It has taken 31 years for me to finally surrender and become one with life. Drugs and alcohol have lost their hold, and I am no longer imprisoned. My heart has mended and my soul awakened. Grateful for this moment and everyone after that I always took for granted. Experiencing a granted abundance, not because of thought, but because I deserve it. Now, being a witness to these gifts in life, I realize they are always and only given to those who consistently give to others first. Give gratitude, give help, give unconditional love. The ultimate gift is witnessing the joy in another human being. Free yourself from the shackles of self by loving and helping others. Experience the beauty of nature. Feel it, hear it, smell it, taste it, become it. Feel the vibrations of this moment. What was already has been. What will be is none of my business. The journey of now is a blessing. a blessing I am so grateful for. Life is not the same anymore. It never is. What can I do in this moment? I ask myself this. What can I contribute to this life of intertwined stellar infinity? All I knew was I planned to put this pen to this page in this book. With ego aside, I had no idea what I was going to write. But as I embraced everything in this moment, these words revealed themselves at the bottom of this page. This will be my contribution for now. As the rain starts to fall, the journey continues. Water writes in the grass as this story becomes the past. So I kind of thought that just really resonated with what we're talking about. But to continue on, sometimes it's saying, yes, God, your will, not mine. Even when I don't like what that will looks like, I've learned that willingness doesn't make things easy. It makes them possible. It keeps me in motion, even when I stumble, because I'd rather crawl forward in faith than sprint backwards in ego. And when I'm willing, God meets me halfway. Doors open, chains break, new paths appear. All because I said yes. It's as simple as that. So now, we've deep dived into the triad of patience, vigilance, and willingness. Basically, we wait, we watch, we walk, and we repeat. This is the sacred loop of surrender. And every time you choose it, you level up. Let's break this down to see how the triad shows up in my daily life trilogy. And the trilogy could be from addiction to alignment, from chaos to clarity, from self-will to surrender. Let's look at addiction as the chaotic loop. In addiction, I lived in the opposite of the triad. It looked like this. Impatience as the opposite of patience, obviously. Basically, I needed the fix now. I couldn't sit in discomfort. So as the opposite of vigilance, we have avoidance. I numb myself to truth. I didn't want to see anything, especially myself. And the opposite of, what do we got here? Of willingness is resistance. I only moved when I could control the outcome. If God was driving, I slammed the brakes. I wasn't aligned, I was fragmented. Each high was a false elevation, each crash a deeper disconnection. I was chasing relief, not truth. So now let's look at alignment, the sacred flow. Alignment isn't perfection, it's rhythm. It's when my actions, thoughts, and spirit are moving in harmony with God's current. And it begins with the triad. Patience flows to delayed impulse, which equals a deeper purpose. In addiction, delay felt like death, pure death. Now patience feels like trust. I pause before I act, not to deny myself, but to ask, is this my will or God's? Alignment means letting that space grow between impulse and action. That space is sacred. That space is where miracles happen. Vigilance alerts pattern recognition, which equals inner awakening. In addiction, I was blind to patterns. I'd keep doing the same thing, expecting a new result. And that is the definition of insanity. That's an ego on autopilot. But with vigilance, I see the pattern before I repeat it. I catch the craving. I name the trigger. And I question the story. Vigilance is where I start to live consciously, not reactively. Vigilance is my flashlight in the cave of the subconscious. Willingness initiates movement towards God, which equals surrender and action. In addiction, my willingness was hijacked by impulse. Now I aim that same energy towards purpose. Willingness means I make the call, I go to the meeting, I write the step work, I stay when my ego screams run. Willingness isn't a one-time choice. It's a daily yes to healing. This is the transition from loop to spiral, as I was talking about in another episode about the perspective of looking at a circle to actually being a spiral when it's in a 3D perspective. Addiction ran me in circles. Same thoughts, same traps, same outcomes. But with patience, vigilance, and willingness, I spiral upward. Each revolution brings more insight, intention, and integration. Alignment means I'm not fighting the current. I'm flowing with the sacred river of my highest path. Here's a mantra for the path. I no longer escape pain. I extract wisdom from it. I wait, I watch, I walk in the direction of freedom. So now let's constraint flip chaos to clarity through the patience, vigilance, and willingness triad. I used to think clarity would arrive like neon, bright, instant, unmistakable. Instead, it comes more like dawn. First, a hint on the horizon, then a slow reveal of what always was there. But dawn only breaks when night has had its say, and that night, we call it chaos. Chaos is when the world won't sit still. Chaos is more than external noise. It's the inner hurricane. Racing thoughts, emotional whiplash, flash fire cravings, a calendar packed yet nothing gets done. Sound familiar? I know it is for me. I called it living. Actually, you know what? Like, that just reminds me of something that I used to do when I was working through my recovery about 5 years ago. Was when I was just starting out, the most important thing was to start slow and take these baby steps. And that looked like, for me, and I would write this on a whiteboard so that I could see on the calendar and on my to-do list and my goals just how much stuff I have to look at so that I don't overcrowd it and get overwhelmed. But it started out with simply being 2.5 minutes of meditation morning and night, and reading 10 pages of the big book a day. That's all I had to do. And weekly I'd meet with my sponsor. And every 2 weeks I would slowly add time onto my meditation. I would usually double it. So every 2 weeks I would go from 2.5 minutes to 5 minutes. And then from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. And then as they got longer, I put more space in between. So maybe a month I would do from 10 minutes to 20 minutes, and then 20 minutes to 30 or 40 minutes. And I would sit on that, because by that time, I was also adding in 20 pages to be read of any literature, and adding on a job to that, and adding on little things like little goals, writing affirmations every single day for myself, stuff that I could handle, but I couldn't handle it all at once. So that just kind of reminded me of the calendar that's packed yet nothing gets done, because in my life before that, I had all these ideas of things that I wanted to do, and I would literally get nothing done. And it wasn't even that I could see this big list of things that I needed to get done, and I would complete one or two of them and I'd be okay with it. I would see that I had, 5 to 10 things to get done, and they would intimidate me so much that I wouldn't even try to get one of them done. right? So it was better for me to just write down one or two things until I knew that I was capable of handling that workload, and then slowly adding it as I progressed in my recovery. Before, when I couldn't handle, processing all of these duties, I called that living hard. Really, it was just running scared. And every storm cell of chaos is fueled by the opposites of our triad: impatience, the knee jerking choices, regret on repeat; avoidance, just missing red flags and blaming fate; resistance, doubling down on the wrong road. Round and round, same storms, different day. But now let's use our triad intervention. Patience as the eye of the storm. Just be still and know. Patience doesn't fix chaos, it opens a still point inside it. The breath between triggers, the pause before reply, the full stop that says, let the dust settle, truth is hiding underneath. Every moment I wait, without numbing, without fleeing. I let gravity pull scattered thoughts back into orbit. Vigilance as reading the weather maps. It's with the storm quieted for a beat, vigilance steps up. Where are these clouds really coming from? I have to ask. Is it fear, fatigue, someone else's expectations? Am I chasing 10 tasks because I'm avoiding one truth? Vigilance is pattern spotting in real time, seeing the repeating swirl and naming it. There's my perfectionism front moving in. Here comes that low pressure shame system. Name it, claim it, tame it. Willingness as steering towards the clear skies. Awareness alone doesn't change the weather. Willingness is where I adjust my course. I trim the sails, cancel the commitments that aren't aligned, chart a heading, one next right action, not 12 at once. Radio for help, mentor, meeting, prayer playlist, whatever grounds me. It's motion with direction, not frantic flailing. Clarity is the dawn after the tempest. Clarity isn't noise free, it's signal rich. The same life, but every element is legible. Priorities pop into focus. Intuition speaks louder than doubt. God's cues feel like road signs instead of riddles. And here's the kicker: clarity rarely arrives with fireworks. It shows up as peaceful certainty, a settled yes, a grounded no, a calendar that matches the calling, a heart that beats steady in the face of change. Here's a daily micro practice, or a storm check, in other words. In other worms. But you can expect the worms after the rainstorm. Sorry, a storm check, in other words. So the first micro practice is to pause, because this shows patience. 3 deep breaths before any major decision. The next is to scan. This shows vigilance. What's the real driver behind this urge? And the third is act. This shows willingness. Choose the smallest step that honors God's plan, not ego's panic. Repeat whenever the winds kick up, whenever the worms come out. Because actually, you know what? I changed that. I think when the worms come out is usually when the proof is in the pudding that you put in the work, because that's when the storm stops. So gotta love me some worms. That can of worms. It's not even relative, but it is now. Chaos taught me movement. The triad taught me direction. Today I don't chase every gust. I ride the one that carries me home. Now let's land the final piece of the triad trilogy. self-will to surrender. Let's talk about the thing that nearly killed me and the thing that's finally keeping me alive. Self-will versus surrender. This is the final boss right here. I used to think self-will was strength, that gritting my teeth, muscling through, and forging ahead on my own terms was what made me powerful. But the truth is, self-will made me a prisoner, because it wasn't strength. It was fear wearing strength's clothes. For me, this is what self-will looked like. I had to control the outcome. I didn't ask for help because help meant weakness. I didn't wait for signs. I made my own signs. I didn't want to heal. I wanted to win. And every time life didn't go my way, I called it unfair. I spiraled, I numbed, and I ran. Self-will was the wall I built between me and God. I said, I got this. But what I meant was, I don't trust you. Now enter the triad. The breakdown becomes the breakthrough. Patience whispered, you don't have to force it. God's got time. Vigilance showed me, you're not seeing clearly when you're panicking. Willingness asked, are you ready to lay down the sword and pick up the key? That key is surrender. Not giving up, giving in, not weakness, but alignment. Let's dive into the exchange between self-will and surrender. Self-will always says, I must control. But surrender answers, God, I trust. Self-will says, I know best. But surrender answers, your will, not mine. Self-will again says, I'm alone. But surrender answers back, I'm held. Self-will says, I have to do everything. Surrender answers, I only have to do the next right thing. Surrender doesn't mean I stop moving. It means I stop pushing against the current. I move with God, not against myself. So what does surrender feel like now? It feels like spaciousness in my chest, like stillness in my thoughts, trust in the unknown, power in my powerlessness. It's waking up and saying, I don't need to know what's next, only that I won't face it alone. It's no longer performing for perfection. It's belonging to the divine process. And here's a closing blessing for us all. Let my surrender be sacred, not shameful. Let my I don't know be a portal to your wisdom. Let me trade control for connection. Let me live free. We've walked this path, and the path is patience, a wait without forcing. It's vigilance, a watch without judgment. And it's willingness, a move without ego. And all of this equals surrender, to let go without fear. That right there is the spectrum, my friends. Not from darkness to light, but from self to source, from addiction to alignment, from chaos to clarity, from resistance to surrender. So until next time, wait, watch, walk, let go, let God, stay surrendered, and stay in tune. Peace out, everyone. All the love. Thank you.